Hello everyone and welcome to the FGO 9th anniversary Destiny Order ranking. You guys seem to have enjoyed my GSSR ranking and wanted me to talk about the Destiny Order as well, so let's do that. So before we get to ranking servants, let's do the usual disclaimers. So in Destiny Order, you choose 9 5-star servants of different classes and one of them will be guaranteed in your multi-role. Now I do believe, again, if you're lucky, you can get more than one, but at least one of your selections will appear in the role. Now, unlike the GSSR, this one costs 30 paid quartz, not 15. So take that into account when you're making plans. So if you plan on rolling both, you will need 45 paid quartz. And again, much like the GSSR, you can only do this once. So good luck. Now, let's talk about your options, starting with Saber. And also, unlike the GSSR, you can actually choose permanents and story locks as well, not just, you know, the latest limited. It's basically every 5-star in the game for those classes. Now, Saber has a good list of servants, but what I would highlight as the big ones would be, if you need single target reinforcement, I would probably recommend Medusa Saber. She should be the strongest of this pool. And for AoE choices, you have a little bit. Okita Alter Summer, Charlemagne, both very good. Ibuki can also do some good work. So those are the ones I would probably highlight. There's not a ton of amazing options for Saber in terms of gameplay value, unfortunately. There is one support choice you could make in Narrow Bride in case you don't need DPS reinforcements. And if you want a more niche DPS option, you could pick Benny Enma. But besides that, no real crazy choices on Saber, I would say. I totally forgot, but while I was editing this, I remembered that people mentioned that Richard might be a potential one on NA's Saber lineup since we did get him considerably early. And I will mention both him and Ibuki are very solid options, but for both of them, keep in mind that Lagras will be released in the future, so we will have a new Queen of Buster for Saber, AoE. I would say Richard, I would still put on the recommended servants on this Destiny order, but keep in mind the potential future power creep anyway. Moving on to Archer. Again, having JP hindsight for buffs and releases definitely helps here, because the standout for Archer in terms of AoE would easily be Ishtar in my opinion. There's a lot of solid ones, but Ishtar, considering the third skill buff that's going to happen in the future, is just pretty nutty. Makes her that much more better for farming. Actually being able to do face card farming with no RNG involved is a huge deal. For DPS or just single targets, I think two other ones I would highlight are Super Orion and then Ptolemaios. Ptolemaios is nice and flexible as well because he has both AoE and single target MPs available. Sometimes a bit wonky to use, but definitely a really nice modern servant. Gilgamesh also worth mentioning, having that anti-servant potential for most of the servants in the game, always going to be relevant. But after the Ishtar buff in the future, I will give her the edge over him, unfortunately. So those would be my archers that I would highlight. Lancers, again, one big one I will immediately highlight, taking account future buffs, is Shisho or Skahak, if you will. Against any divine target, she will just melt them. Even on neutral damage, the numbers will be really, really good. So I forgot if NA already has that buff. I'm so bad with my memory, but if we do already, I think we may have already gotten it, but if we don't, that's going to be a crazy buff in the future to make her a lot more relevant. Also, another buff that will make someone more relevant is the buff to Lancer Artoria. Yeah, I can't believe I'm saying this, but Lancer Artoria is actually relevant again. Her buster numbers will actually go up significantly, and even for Grand Lancer raids, she actually will be very relevant, especially if you plan on running her with my other recommendation in Melusine. Still super relevant, still one of the best AoE buster loopers we have to this day, especially if you're into single core. And I will give honorable mentions to both Ereshkigal and Quirinus as well, being solid AoE options. Quirinus especially has a very high damage ceiling, especially if you're going for an invested copy, but I would go with the former for more safer picks personally. Now for Ryder, quite a bit of a list again. My number one highlight is Rhinus. If you do not have a copy of her, she is just amazing. For farming, she has limited use, unfortunately, but for any kind of boss content, she is a very great servant to have in your roster. Same with Constantine after his MP buff, especially if you like buster servants with damaging MPs. He's very nice to have, will be very relevant. For AoE choices, I will highlight, interestingly enough, I will actually start by highlighting Taiko valuable, so I will mention a permanent here. There will be a lot of other options as well, even on NA right now and in the future, but he's still good, and again, against any kind of divine targets on farming, he will just always be a very solid option. I will highlight Yvonne, not as necessarily a farmer, but definitely great kit for killing bosses. And finally, for a single target, I will actually mention another permanent, so Ozymandias still super relevant. I know a lot of people probably don't want to pick permanents here because, you know, you can still get spooked by them, so I don't blame you if you want to pick limiteds or even story locks only, but Ozymandias, if you need a single target rider, probably still the GOAT, so take that how you will, I guess. Then we have Caster, so this is a wild one because we have a lot of support options, so this I feel like will be one of the hardest choices for people. Number one recommendation, if you don't have a copy though, Castoria, it's the no-brainer. Just get her, you'll be happy, best servant in the game, yada yada, you've heard me say the spiel, but Castoria number one if you don't have a copy. Other servants that are really good if you don't have copies, Waver actually, another permanent. After his buff that NA doesn't have yet, the one to the first skill, any servant with a good overcharge will immediately gain a lot more value from Waver, and the best yet, he's universal, he's not tied to any card type, so actually Waver is really stonk back again after all these years. I will also highlight Scotty. While I do think Summer Scotty has more mileage, OG Scotty definitely feels better in a lot of boss fights though, depending on if you want to go super fast or you want to take your time, because her MP feels a lot better than Summer Scotty's in most cases, so still very relevant, especially if you like quick. And again, another support, Miss Crane. If you don't have a copy and you have a lot of deformer ones, very recommended. Now with the new buff she got very recently, sadly you will have to wait for that already because, you know, it's pretty recent on JP, but it makes her a very universal damage boost for both farming actually now as well and for bosses, so Miss Crane is very valuable. And also, of course, I will also mention Merlin. If anything, he should be even higher on prio. Maybe he should be number 2 after Castoria, honestly, in prio list. Again, with the buff to his second skill, he now has spread 30, which is pretty insane, so he actually can be used in farming. He was mostly used in bosses only, but now with having spread 30, you can definitely get a lot of value him on farming as well for the busters side, so Merlin is just super relevant still. So that's it for the supports I want to mention. Now for the damaging side, for AoE, you have two main choices, I would say. Tonelico or Ash and Alice. I would say they are definitely the best of the AoEs here. Alice is the safe pick for bosses. Farming numbers are okay, but if you're going for a big copy, you can make it work too. For bosses, she's very comfortable to use. Tonelico, both farming and bosses. More farming, I would say, but can be utilized in both. Just both very modern and great servants. And for single target, I would only recommend Izumo no Okuni. I don't think Ilya and Sanzang really make the cut all that much, unfortunately. They just feel very outdated, but Izumo, pretty good. You might be able to replace her with some alter egos and or berserkers though, because she is still not like absolutely amazing, but among casters, she's the best single target. So there's a big list for you. All right, let's talk assassins. Again, number one recommendation if you don't have a copy, Koyan of Light. Quintessential for any kind of buster lovers out there, for both farming and even on bosses can be utilized. Just absolutely a must-have. Get her if you don't have her. Now, after her, I would recommend Tez. He's very amazing on AoE. Mostly utilized in farming, especially really good on multi-core. And for a single target choice, I think the no-brainer is Kama here. I believe NA doesn't have the MP buff yet, but when that happens, it's just an absolute game changer. Being able to just super effective against basically any enemy that's not like charm or debuff immune is just pretty ridiculous. So it used to be a bit close between some of the single target assassins for the best spot, but I would say now it's Kama, or in the future there will be Kawakami released as well, who is another consideration, but I still prefer Kama myself. There you go, that's my assassin recommendations. The big Berserker. Number one recommendation, if you just want an amazing universal single target DPS, pick Saber Castoria. She's just absolutely broken. To this day, arguably the best single target DPS in the whole game, accounting for, you know, the 2 future years of JP as well. Especially if a great copy. You can just use her and you can throw her literally at anything. Hell, she can even do a lot of foreigner fights because she has a lot of good anti-stuff for them as well, despite having a terrible class affinity. So, need I say more, just Saber Castoria, amazing single target, just broken. But if you want a single target farmer, Kintoki is still not the worst thing of all time. His kit is absolutely terrible, but his numbers are still fine, and he's actually still utilized in some raid farming. So if you want more of a farmer, granted you can use Castoria for farming as well, but if you just need a one big hit, then Kintoki might serve you fine too. For AoE, I will highlight 4 things actually. For the red side, we have Arjuna Alter and Morgan, of course. Arjuna Alter, just a man of huge numbers. Morgan a bit more versatile otherwise. Her numbers will depend if she hits hits anti-trade or not for her MP farming wise, but for DPS, she still has very solid crits and she can be used in a lot of different comps as well. So while some people want to see her buffed, I still think she's very relevant. For arts, the no-brainer obviously is Summer Ibuki. Musashi has had a glow up, but I would not say she's even on the same level as Summer Ibuki still, unfortunately. So Summer Ibuki is still one of the best universal arts loopers in the game, very strong to this day. And for quick, I will mention Sen Norikyu. While I wouldn't say she's the best universal AoE quick in the game, being a Berserker makes her very versatile and relevant. So honorable mention there as well. So there's the Zerks. Now we get the two big extra class pools. So they have two different pools. You sadly can't pick every extra class individually. The first is the triangle of Ruler, Avenger, and Moon Cancer. So from this list, I would recommend the no-brainer pick being Summer Skadi, the quintessential quick support in the game. I mentioned Caster being really relevant still, but Summer is just easier in use, and you will use her more just because she's used in farming more than Caster. So crazy mileage, definitely a worthwhile servant to have. For AoE options, I will mention some. I'm gonna start with Ruler Moriarty, actually. Very slept on by a lot of people, actually. Actually, one of the best universal arts loopers in the game. He will not hit like effective damage like Summer Ibuki all the time, but having an upgraded MP, you should not discount his damage numbers. They are very legit, especially if he hits anti-trade, so he's super relevant. I'm gonna barely mention Karen as well for another pretty universal AoE quick option if you need one. A bit more boss focused than farming, but certainly a very packed servant that can have a lot of mileage because of her class. Now for single targets, gonna start by mentioning the Count of Monte Cristo. Just very modern, very solid, can make his own anti-trait, has basically a guaranteed stun on his MP, which is really, really good for a lot of safe boss fights where you can stun the boss. Just a super solid servant all around. And for another single target choice, I'm barely gonna mention Jalter as well. Yes, the big old J Alter, Jod Alter in this day and age. After her battery buff, she actually became a lot more relevant again. You can even use her in farming because of that, and even her boss potential, despite her kit being super bare bones, her numbers are still so high that you can actually do some really meaty crits and decent MP damage depending on your level of MP on her as well. And I'm gonna do one final bonus one. I'm gonna mention First Emperor because of his recent-ish buff on JP. Without the buff, I feel like he still has quite many issues, but the buff certainly addressed a lot of his issues, so he feels a lot more solid now for both solo and team potential as a DPS. So I think he kind of makes the cut now. There are other pretty solid ones out there, but I'm gonna leave my mentions at those, not to overflood you, so there you go. And finally, the other half of the extra classes, we have 4 this time. We have Alter Ego, Foreigner, Pretender, and they also included Beast on this one. Obviously, Space Ereshkigal, our latest Beast upcoming with this anniversary. She won't be in this pool though, but we do have the original Beast in Draco. Now, I'll give some no-brainer recommendations here. The number one no-brainer is Oberon. If you don't have a copy, just easiest choice, I would say. I would not even consider, honestly. But yeah, at that point, I would just pick it. Option number 2. This will actually divide some opinions, but I will say Lady Avalon. Yes, I know Saber Tiamat makes her a lot less relevant next year, but if you just want someone, especially if you like using Castoria and CQs, that combo alone is just, it basically breaks 99% of CQs in the game. Just Castoria, Lady Avalon, slap an Arch DPS, you're golden, you won't lose, no one's gonna die. Unless they have buff removal or something, yeah, you're just golden. So she's still super strong despite Summer Tiamat kind of power creeping her, as crazy as that sounds. I'm also gonna mention Doman as a hybrid of DPS and support. For any Chaotic Evil enjoyers out there, you will get a lot more damage from this guy. He can also be utilized in some instant kill farming as well, so he's just a very versatile servant. I would hesitate to call him necessarily top tier nowadays, but definitely a super nice servant to have, and even MP1 is totally fine because of his versatility. Now for the damaging side, well, I guess also supporting side in this case, I will mention Van Gogh, especially if you're a Foreigner enjoyer. She herself can do solo, she can support other forwarders in DPSing, just offers a crazy amount of buffs depending on who you're working her with, and obviously a great DPS herself, assuming you can debuff the enemy. If you can't, it kind of falls off quite a bit, but yeah, usually you can. So Van Gogh is just super strong to this day. No need for MP levels really either. You're fine with just MP1. And for a full DPS choice, I will mention Kukulkan. For any red enjoyers out there, there's a great universal click red enemy dead option. Just very strong. Crazy kit, honestly. Like, you can tell they weren't holding back when they designed her. So Kukulkan will just always probably be super relevant as a big red hitter. For single target choices, I'll leave you with 2, starting with Bazette. No, I'm gonna leave you with 3 actually. But starting with Bazette, pretty good. And on the same trade, we're gonna mention Melt because she's right next to them. Because they're both kind of similar. They're both alter ego single targets with quick MPs. Granted, they work differently. Melt is the easier one to use. So if you like that, go for her. Absolutely a great servant. But if you don't mind some gimmicky playstyles, especially have a lot of support options available, I feel like Bazette might have better potential. But they're both still super strong. After the Melt MP buff happens, she is just so good. And can replace a lot of the cavalry single targets if you're missing out on those like casters or assassins, because those classes sadly don't have a lot of great options, so bonus value. And I'll still mention Draco. There's been a lot of heated debate like, oh, Draco versus like Saber Castoria, etc. But while I will give the edge to Saber Castoria, Draco is still so crazy value. Like for any normal class in the game that's a servant, she's just so good. Like her damage is really good. She's very self-sufficient, works great with support. No real drawbacks. Obviously, against extra class, she will immediately just not do well. Just really bad. But against any 7 normal classes, she is a great single target option. And even in some rare cases, can do some farming as well, but mostly just bosses. So there you go. That's my recommendations. Probably still a fairly lengthy video there, but I hope you found this useful. Let me know down in the comments if you think I snubbed some, because I was going through this pretty fast. I either may have snubbed someone because I didn't remember like potential buffs or something, or I may have just straight up missed some, so apologies if I did. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with this selection that I gave you guys. Again, this is a game playlist. I still want to say I should have put this at the start of the video, but as a disclaimer, I would always still recommend picking your favorites, no matter what their power level is. But yeah, this is straight up a gameplay power list that I just gave you, so take it how you will. But if you found this video useful, leave a like on it and subscribe not to miss out on future videos. We'll be back tomorrow. While I myself not do crazy rolls for space or FGO, you will still see some gacha of that, so stay tuned. I know a lot of you guys have been asking for more gacha, and you will still see my GSSR and Destiny order anyway. Shout out to my patrons on the screen right now for supporting the channel as well. Also, best of luck if you're going for both the Destiny order or GSSR or one of them. Good luck, may you get who you want, and otherwise have a great anniversary up ahead, and see ya in the next video. Bye bye.